Alrighty, guys, you know what time it is. You see that title. Should the Buckeyes be the #1 ranked team going into the 2022-2023 season? What's up, y'all? DJ the Sports Blurred. I'm back at it again. Did y'all miss me? Thank you for taking time out of your day to check my video out. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you're here with me, and I really appreciate that. If you haven't already, please smash that like button and consider subscribing. If you like to hear me talk about sports, or even if you just flat out disagree with my takes and just want to just disagree with me, like it seems like all these Oklahoma Sooner fans want to do, consider subscribing. I want to go back to a video I just put up a couple of days ago, and it was entitled, "It's All Going Down Here for Oklahoma," or something like that. It looks like Oklahoma fans had a lot to say. When I go back to that video, I want to address it just for a couple of seconds. When I go back and I address that video, I just really wanted to say, I don't think Oklahoma's going to have a terrible season. I just don't think they're going to be very good. I mean, all the publications that I'm reading they don't really have Oklahoma as a top 10 team. And you guys really have to be honest with yourselves. I mean, with all the pieces that you guys are going to be replacing, with all the moving parts, you guys can't, at least as Oklahoma Sooner fans, can't really look at that season and say, at least with an unbiased eye, and say, there's no way in heck that we're going to be just as good as we were last year. I mean, you guys had an 11-2 season, and that was a down season. So with a brand new head coach coming in, probably a brand new quarterback, some pieces around him, you guys have done a great job in the transfer portal getting some guys. But it's all about continuity. These guys have never played together. Yeah, they might be decent pieces, but you just can't throw decent pieces on a roster and just think you're going to win, especially if you have no continuity. So, before we get into this Ohio State talk, let's go ahead and visit what's going on with Caleb Williams and this saga, the drama saga or soap opera that he's created. So according to an article I just read on SI, it looks like Caleb Williams has a little bidding war going on for his services. I mean, you have LSU, Oklahoma, USC, and you have Georgia all bidding for his talent. So while I never considered LSU or Georgia, you'd have to think if he went to Georgia, they'd almost be unbeatable, with the amount of talent they'd have returning with him. I don't think LSU has a big chance, but if they can offer him a great package, you never know. The article even goes on to say that Caleb Williams has pretty much narrowed his decision down between two teams. You can only read into this so much, but LSU and USC. So it looks like the Sooners are going to be out of the race, and really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, including the Sooners fans. I mean, I think there might be a slim chance he went there. He picked them first before he picked LSU. He picked them first before he picked USC. But you got to think these guys now are looking towards the pros. Who can help him, number one, get to the place where he wants to be? Is it Brent Venables? Probably not. But the one thing I will say about the Oklahoma Sooners, you guys have pieced your program together very well. I mean, you guys went out and got Dylan Gabriel. We saw him put some monster numbers up at UCF. I thought he had a great career working. And then I just read also, you guys just picked up another young quarterback. And I think you guys are going to be okay. I really think you guys are going to be a top 20 talent. But in terms of, making the playoffs, I think you guys are just a year or two out, from doing that. So kind of to get back to Caleb Williams, I'm all for player empowerment. I'm all for players getting paid and even having the flexibility to come and go, just like most of these coaches have that flexibility. But as I kind of look at the college football landscape, it really makes me nervous. I guess what really kind of makes me nervous is I would see these kids that grow up as Longhorn fans, Buckeye fans, Sooner fans, Bulldog fans. They would build themselves up through the Pop Warner programs, go to middle school thinking about being an Ohio State Buckeye, go to high school thinking about being a Texas Longhorn. And it's really starting to seem like, now they'll go to the programs that offer them the best and the most instead of just going to programs that they just loved and held near and dear to their heart, as a kid. That's the one thing that I felt like separated college football from everything else. It was that pageantry. It was the rivalries. It was waking up and going to check out the Iron Bowl because it really meant something to these kids. And, ultimately, I think about maybe 10% of these players, if that much, wield significant power, kind of like Caleb Williams does, and maybe a few others. But it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, 5, 10, 15 years from now. I'm not really sure we're going to recognize and have the pageantry that we have today in college football. I can make the argument that it's slipping now. But, enough of all that. Let's go on the real topic. So my question, should the Buckeyes be the best team headed into the 2022 season? Now, before you scoff at me and you say, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, let me lay down some facts for you. So keep in mind, they returned the nucleus of the number one offense from the previous year. Now, sure, two of their best wide receivers, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, are going to be catching, passes in the NFL. But if you really watched their team, I'm a big Buckeye fan, so I really paid attention to almost every game they played. You saw that their best player, at least their best receiver, is going to be returning. And that guy is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Midway through last year and really at the end of the season, he kind of caught fire. You really start to see him separate himself, even with two elite wide receivers flanking him. There's also another young receiver. His name is Marvin Harrison Jr. You may have heard of his father. The last time we saw him, he wasn't doing much. I mean, just 6 catches, 71 yards, 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl game. Going back, don't forget what Jackson Smith-Njigba also did in that Rose Bowl game. I mean, he broke every record there was to almost break in the Rose Bowl, let alone just college, the bowl series in general. He had 15 receptions for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, even when Utah game plan for him, they shifted double coverage over to him, he still just found a way to get open. And so when you pair him with Marvin Harrison Jr., a guy that you may not have heard much from, he struggled to get some opportunity last year. They're going to have a really dynamic 1-2 punch. And don't forget, they had a true freshman named Emeka Ejigba, last year. He's a true freshman, and they also had Julian Fleming, who was a sophomore. They're both going to take on bigger roles. So we talked about the wide receivers. Let's go ahead and talk about the running backs. So they're going to return their true freshman stud, TreVeyon Henderson. I mean, he rushed for over 1,200 yards. He had 15 touchdowns last year, and he also had a few catches too. I think he had 27 for over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. I mean, this guy was an absolute stud. And believe it or not, I think he's going to garner his own Heisman talk, just like I believe Jackson Smith-Njigba will. So you pair him up with another freshman from last year, Mayan Williams, and you have another lethal 1-2 punch that can compare with any backfield in the country. And at quarterback, you have the odds-on Heisman favorite, C.J. Stroud. I mean, just look at what this guy did last year as a freshman. He was 5th in the NCAA in passing with over 4,400 yards. He was 3rd in touchdowns with 44. He only had 6 interceptions. And as a freshman, he was number 1 in the nation in total QBR at 91.6. Let me repeat, he was a freshman. So with all the weapons that they have and, with him getting a stronger grip of the offense, I think the sky is the limit for this young quarterback. So if you're a Buckeye fan like me, you watched him grow up pretty much from the Oregon game. The Oregon game was really rough. It looked like he was a little above. It looked like he was just trying to tread water in that game. But if you just kept watching him game after game after game, if you really watch his progression all the way to that Rose Bowl game, he looked like he had a really strong grip on the offense. So, if you're counting Jackson Smith-Njigba, C.J. Stroud, and also TreVeyon Henderson, and that's at least 3 potential Heisman candidates, and no other team in the country has that many. So the O-line is bringing back much of their core. They're going to be really strong, I believe. Ryan Day has pretty much overhauled what was the Achilles heel of the team, which was the defense. So that was really the only bad spot that you had on the team. I mean, you even had the number 1 kicker in the nation. So even special teams was strong. So if you imagine Ohio State bringing back their offense, potentially getting even better, and then revamping their defense. I mean, they don't even have to have a top 5 defense. If they had a top 10 defense, I think this team would be unstoppable. You know, Ryan Day, he brought in Tim Wallen and Perry Elanis and a couple of other coaches to remedy what was going wrong in 2021. So I think we have something good. Now, in closing, I do not think the Buckeyes should be the number 1 ranked team going into the season, but I think they'll have a good chance to end the season being number 1. I have absolutely way too much respect for Alabama and Georgia. They were elite of the elite last year. I mean, I just think that no one can beat them. You know, if you've been following my channel for a little bit, you saw a video that I put out. I thought Michigan was actually going to beat Georgia in their bowl playoff game, but they didn't even hold a chance. They had no chance, didn't hold water to them at all. It didn't even look like they should be on the same field. So I think going into the season, Georgia should be ranked number 1. Alabama should be ranked number 2. And then it's who's who for who should be ranked number 3. So let me know what you guys think about this video in the comment section. Am I right? Am I wrong? You know, if you're an Oklahoma fan, let me know what you guys think about it. And I'm going to put out a next video. I don't really know what I'm going to title it, but is USC a better job than OU? Who knows? And is USC a playoff team next year? So that's what I'm going to talk about next game. I appreciate you if you watch me from the beginning to the end of this video. I really do. Let me know if I'm off base or let me know if I'm on base. Thank you for spending some time with me in my living room. Thank you and take care.